And hello, everyone. Welcome to Passover Around the Globe. Passover Around the Globe. We're going to take you all around the world. We have special guests. We are going to learn some of the various traditions, both culinary and musical, and maybe some other fun traditions that we can speak about of how we celebrate Pesach, this wonderful and joyous festival of freedom. And I am really excited, as you see on my screen, to invite a member of our Brotherhood board, Geoffrey Rosenthal. Hello, Geoffrey.
Hello.
Geoffrey, we're so glad you're here. Thanks for planning this event. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, everyone. Glad you could be a part of it.
With us as well, we have as presenters Doug Golden, Cantor Arie Shikler, and Martine Speckler and Heather Rosenthal. And then we're going to sing a song or two at the end, and then we will all go about our way. So, Passover is a fascinating holiday. Yes, written in the Torah, one of the the Shalosh Regalim, the main festivals that are written there. But where do we get a lot of these traditions that we know as? Like a Seder. Why would we all sit around a table and eat? Otherwise, Geoffrey, that's what we do as Jews. We sit around a table and we eat, right?
The best part?
It is the best part. But the thing is, did you know, and here's the first did you know of the night. Here we go. Ding! Did you know that the Passover Seder's customs were actually derived from a Roman symposium? Did you know that, Geoffrey?
I did not.
Well, it
No.
makes a lot of sense, actually, if you think about it. So let's think all the way back to the times right before the Mishnah was written. First century, give or take CE. And all of the Romans were sitting around. They had just destroyed the temple. They're totally happy. All is good. And their leadership is literally sitting there learning, talking, enjoying, drinking with each other's company, and there are people coming over and serving food to them all the time. And there's all kinds of things, from meat to delicious delicacies, you name it. So, what the rabbis decided to do when they went up to Yavne and to create the idyllic world, they decided to say, you know what, the Romans kind of had a good plan going. Let's sit around and be festive and talk and drink and learn. And then, what do you do after you've embellished enough in your food and your drink? You lean and you're done and you pass out. And that's exactly one of the reasons we recline as well. A Roman symposium. I don't know. I think that's a great way to kick this off with a little bit of did you knows, right?
That's actually funny, Rabbi, because I would have thought that Passover was about testing people's patience, seeing how long you could read a book with, good food right by you, but you can't actually eat until you get to the, middle or end of the book.
It would have been a great test. And as you know, with our brotherhood events, we like to eat and we like to drink and we like to have food involved in all of our stuff. Speaking of which, thank you to the SHM Brotherhood overall for sponsoring this event and bringing this event to us. We got a lot of people signed on, and I'm thrilled. I've spotlighted the both of us, but I'm about to take the spotlight off of me and give it right over to Geoffrey to kick us off a little bit about some of the Sephardic traditions that happen in our Jewish world.
Sounds great. Is the slides progressing? Okay. Do you see the Sephardic slide?
You're good.
Rabbi, I'm good. Okay. The other thing I'll add in, we're going to try, if we can, to make this interactive. If possible, feel free to type a question in the chat, or maybe even come off mute if you dare. We have plenty of time, so if people have questions within reason, we can try to answer some of those questions and have a good time. So I'm Jeff Rosenthal. If you don't know me, you probably know my wife, Heather Rosenthal, the director of our religious school. So I am half Sephardic or quarter Sephardic, depending upon which lineage you look through with some of my family history. mostly from Spain, a little bit of Greece, so Mediterranean. Like any good Jewish holiday or Jewish event, I thought we'd kick it off more about food. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the food traditions on this first slide here. The first couple that people kind of find interesting when they attend or seders with my parents is they notice brown eggs. And I'm gonna butcher the Ladino, and so bear with me, but huevos hamanados. I think I got that right.
Yes.
Thank you, Cantor. And it's a tradition just to be a little different, to be a little bit more flavorful with the egg. And I don't know if there's actually a religious significance for it. I think it's more of just trying to add a little spin, right? A little extra flavor on the egg. And so one of the traditions is just the brown egg. Another more enjoyable tradition for Sephardim is we use romaine lettuce as our bitter herb. So we don't use horseradish when we make the Hillel sandwich. And when you get to the part where you're using your bitter herb, it's a lot more pleasant to use romaine lettuce instead of your more traditional horseradish. Although that might be blasphemy for some really enjoy their horseradish.
So a Caesar salad isn't really the whole idea of it.
Right. Well,
Romans? I mean, you never know.
You never know. And then finally, just the Mediterranean by the ocean, that theme, we use fried fish instead of gefilte fish. And just a fun little different spin or taste, for Sephardim. To dive in a little bit deeper, our Sephardic language is Ladino. If you haven't heard, it's unfortunately a kind of a dead language or an old language, but it's based upon Spain Spanish. And on the right, there's a graphic picture with some Hebrew letters, and then different letters in Ladino, and I'm also going to get this wrong, but Soletreo, which was the basis for Ladino or Ladino letters. It's kind of like when, I guess, Jews and Hebrew language kind of moved more towards the Mediterranean, and how the base language kind of transformed again, more of melding with Spanish, Spain Spanish. Some of the fun words associated with that. So for Dayenu, right, we chant Abastabanos. So a fun little family tradition. We sing Dayenu in Hebrew, and then when we read in English the different, it would have been sufficient, we kind of do a little Abastabanos at the end. So that's fun. And then when you get to the part in Pesach Matzah Imaror, instead of Maror, it's Ilachuga. So again, just a fun little chanting session we do, or when we get to the part when we do bitter herbs, Maror within the Haggadah, it's Pesach Matzah Ilachuga as opposed to Maror.
And Geoffrey, Lechuga is any bitter herb, or is that just specifically romaine lettuce? Is that what they use? What is?
Lechuga, I'm pretty sure it's just bitter herb. The Ladino word for bitter herb. And then we happen to use the romaine lettuce for bitter herb.
So horseradish.
Lechuga means Spanish, by the way, means lettuce.
Oh, it means lettuce. Thank you, Mickey. So, all right. So
there you go.
That makes sense. All right.
Yep. See, now I learned something too. Thanks, Mickey. And then last but not least, my little mic drop, and I won't necessarily go into it, but there is a theory that Christopher Columbus was actually a Sephardic Jew. Google it, look it up. It's kind of an interesting spin or take. There's a couple of clues. He's from the right part of the world initially, right, when he started his exploring. And then I guess many of his manuscripts have a bet hey. That's the 3 letters in the middle bottom there. That's the like kind of an old Hebrew way of it's
Be'ezrat
Hashem.
Hashem.
Yep.
Him,
By God's will. So it's I guess in many of his writings or whatnot that we have, there's those 3 letters. So anyway, so there's a theory that Christopher Columbus was a Sephardic Jew.
Interestingly, I wonder if he, 1492, that whole time, Inquisition.
Yep.
Was literally sent out, and who knows? It's an interesting theory. We'll look that up.
Yep. And so with that, that's kind of all I had from my sharing. So thanks for listening. And I think Doug had some more to add. Doug Golden. Let me.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to kind of piggyback on what you said. I don't have any presentation that way, but I'll be showing kind of foods. I am not Sephardic. I'm giving you kind of I don't want to say a firsthand knowledge of someone who is, but how I became exposed to this. Going out with Diane, who's now my wife, the first Passover with her family really kind of was a foreign global experience. There are foreign foods, foreign languages, and foreign people. So imagine, going out with someone, all of a sudden you only know 2 people there and there are 40 other family members on top of all the food and everything else you learn. It's a learning experience, but after 20 plus years, now I'm part of the family and I know all these things.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, Doug. I actually asked my dad this last Seder, and he said actually one of the things that he remembers most vividly from early when he was married my mom was actually the Sephardic traditions at the Seder plate with my grandfather. So
good. Ethnically, Diane's father grew up in Greece, and Diane's mother's grandparents are from the island of Rhodes. And when most of the Jews immigrated from Rhodes, it was either part of Turkey or kind of Turkish but controlled by Italy. Now Rhodes is part of Greece. So their Seder incorporates certain kind of Turkish and Greek sensibilities, so to speak. A lot of the familiar foods that we're used to, Jeff alluded to as Ashkenazic people, we don't see here in a Sephardic Seder, so to speak. There's no matzo ball soup. There's no chicken liver. As Jeff said, there's no gefilte fish. There's the fried fish, which my mother-in-law makes a different kind of gefilte fish for like 3 of us, and everyone else eats the fried fish. So some of the foods that they eat, actually, let's go back. In the actual Seder part, it's in English, obviously, Hebrew. There's a little bit that's in Greek, except right now, Diane's father and an aunt are the only people who speak Greek, so it's all Greek to us. And there's a little bit of Ladino. We, in fact, discussed the song Jeff mentioned, but we always use Dayenu, a song that we sing pertains to the bread of affliction, where it starts, Este pan de la frisha, this is the bread of affliction. So that's kind of the one thing that we all speak in Ladino. And while most people say Ladino is Spanish, I see it as actually partially Portuguese, because the J's are J instead of we'd say H sounding. But so just a little different thing. Now onto the foods. One of the foods is called mina, which is almost a shepherd's pie with matzo meat at the bottom, seasoned ground beef, another layer, and on top is like a whipped mashed potatoes, so to speak. For vegetables, this is very typical in Sephardic, not just Greek and Turkey, but throughout the Mediterranean, they use leek patties, which are basically, leeks, which is very tough. it's boiled and grounded. They kind of look like this.
Doug, what was
The-
the shepherd's pie? What was that made of? Matzah meal?
Yes, it's the base is matzah meal. White matzah. That's kind of matzah meal or matzah. Then basically seasoned beef, ground beef, and then whipped mashed potatoes put on. So it could look like, for example, lasagna almost with a bechamel sauce, but there's no sauce on it.
Well, that sounds real good. I think I may have that for dinner tomorrow night.
Well, stop by. We still have plenty of things
All right.
in that respect. In terms of dipping, something in salt, there's no salt water. They use vinegar. And we take celery and dip the celery in the vinegar, for example. I forgot about, the leek patty. Once they boil the leek, ground it up, it's kind of mixed with, again, some ground beef and matzo meal, a little bit, I think, an egg to get the actual patty.
Now, do you for the leek patties, do you have the same joke as we do in our family where we, hey, can you take a leak?
We will next year.
You're welcome.
Jake is with me and he loves it. So if I forget, he will remember, I'm sure. So the other foods we use. Now for haroset, there's no apples, cinnamon, and nuts. What's used is this, which you very see, almost looks like chopped liver. They use dates and walnuts and manischewitz. And quite frankly, again, it looks like chopped liver. This is really closer to what mortar is than the Ashkenazic version. And I will tell you, in a hot broth we had, when we brought haroset, this went over much greater with people than simply the Ashkenazic apples, cinnamon, honey, nuts, so to speak. This is really, really good. This is kind of thing where we like to eat it all year round, but Diane kind of says, no, it's a Passover food. We can't eat it all year round. On some other foods, kind of one of the last things for dessert, so to speak, is this, which is a nut cookie, chewy, soft cookie called the mustachudu. Now I'll kind of sample it and you'll see why it's called mustachudu. So what does mustachudu mean?
Doug, hold that right there and smile. Smile. Okay.
So can anyone tell what mustachudu means? What does it sound like or look like?
Mustache.
Yes. Because when you eat it, you get a mustache. So that's kind of that. If anyone has any questions, be more than happy to answer.
And what is that made of?
Basically nuts.
The white. What is the white? Sugar?
The white is powdered sugar.
Yeah. Love that. Diane, are you going to help us make it next year, as Heather suggested?
Well, actually, Diane's mother makes all these things, and trying to get my kids interested in making them. Jake's interested. This is not as much. I mean, certainly, it's a fun thing because, quite frankly, we live in a society in the United States where Jewish means really Eastern European Jewish or Central European Jewish. And we forget they're Jews from all over the world. And these foods which I presented tonight were just from two other countries, and they're, different. But at the same time, as the rabbi would attest to, all these Jewish foods really have meaning. They're act as symbols. In fact, tonight I read about mustachudis that in some families, the women used to make them as blobs, Then they started making them in triangles to look like pyramids because we built the pyramids, theoretically. So, the stories evolved from what, someone originally came up with and decided, hey, let's give another definition or make it more interesting and pass it on to our, children and grandchildren as time goes on.
Outstanding. Thank you, Doug. This is so cool to learn about some of these various traditions. I had no idea. I mean, we have a small link of Sephardic in our family, but not anything significant that we do any Sephardic customs on Pesach. So, but I'm really intrigued by this idea. And there's this, there were a lot of people that I remember faking being Sephardic so they could eat rice on Pesach before kitniot, became a thing, and rice and beans. And, I was never really a fan. We never really did that. But it's fascinating to hear between the date haroset is like my new jam. I love that stuff. It is so delicious with apricots in it, and oh, so good. So good. That's great. Well, thank you, Doug. Hey, Jeff, do you mind if we break the agenda up just a little and maybe sing a song right now?
Go for it.
Because I think it would be really fun for all of us to sing a song that we already know. We already know this one. This one is not a Sephardic song, but we all know it, and we all sang it, hopefully. Do you hear me?
I do.
All right.
Do we all have to go off mute to sing together?
No, let's not go off mute unless you really want to be heard. I see Deborah shaking her finger. But here we go. Ilu hotzi hotzi anu mi mitzrayim hotzi anu mi mitzrayim dayenu 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 ilu natan natan lanu natan lanu e hashaba natan lanu e hashaba dayenu dayenu day. At least clap your hands. Let's see ya. Dayenu 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 day. Oh, good, Uncle Jerry. Dayenu 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 ilu natan natan lanu et haTorah natan lanu et haTorah dayenu 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 dayenu. Very good. It is never enough singing. Never enough singing. Cantor Shikler, how long do you guys sing for at your Seder? Unmute yourself, my friend.
The Seder here at my house, a lot. We basically read, and give everybody parts to read. I lead it, and we sing all the songs.
What's your go-to song? What is your go-to song?
I think the best song was actually written by other group of slaves, "Go Down Moses." You think about the work songs that African Americans, came up with in the fields, really in hard labor. And we have a totally different history because we had a great time before we were enslaved by another nation. But Goshen was a great land. Joseph was second to the Pharaoh. So from that goes to slavery. They were like, and nobody came to our village and snatched people and put them on boats and sent them to America. So it's a different experience. But they capture it spiritually in such a beautiful way that this song, Go Down Moses, is really, it's a great spiritual, and it really captures, because the way they do it, I'll do a little ditty on it. The way they do it is they go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land, tell old Pharaoh. And then they go into to let my people go. You know, it's in Louis Armstrong's Bible CD, but
Such feeling.
one of my favorites, but I love the old ones that are Manginot Misinai, like Halachma, you know, in Aramaic, and Avadim Ainu, you know, and it's a good reminder.
Absolutely. Cantor,
But my Passover in my childhood is a completely different thing.
can we hear a little bit about it? Because I think now you're going to take us all the way back Ba'aretz.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I'll give you a real great, quick synopsis of my neighborhood. I grew up in Ramat Gan, and it's every Jew from every country is there. And they're my friends, and I go to their houses and they come to our house. So we have people from, you know, Sfaradim, from Tunisia and Morocco, from Iraq, Mizrahim, from Iraq, from Libya, from Tripoli in Libya, Lebanese, Jews from Syria, and we have Jews from all the countries in Europe. So I grew up in a very cosmopolitan neighborhood where you had a flavor of everything. And this is a picture of me. I didn't have a chance to go on, you know, post something up. I don't know if you can see that. My bar mitzvah. I'm just posing with a talit. That's a ritual. See that?
You look exactly the same.
I grew into my ears. But anyways, so my father was always leading the family Pesach. And he was, in the beginning, he was at my uncle and aunts. We have a very small family because of the Holocaust. So I had only one aunt and one cousin my age. And then when my sister got married, of course, his family joined us. And the neighborhood where I lived was across, my apartment is across the street from a bakery that works every day. And in Passover, it's the only time that you don't hear trucks over there and don't smell bread. You know, and it's hard to live on matzahs. You know, we did one bread sometimes. And when we were kids, to get bread, you had to go to the Arabs. And to us, the closest Arabs were in Jaffa. So if you really wanted to break Passover and go wipe a pita in some hummus, you had to all the way to Jaffa.
Abulafia.
2 hours each way. Anyways, my father led the service or the Seder, and he was a very fast reader because he really wanted to get to the food. He read it with a feeling, but in Ashkenazi accent. Now, compared to Ladino, which I know a little bit of, Ashkenazi flows better. In Ladino, the way they wrote the Hebrew, when you look at all Ladino writings, they all flow together beautifully, the writing. But the language itself has some hard syllables at the end. But in Ashkenazit, every taf becomes a s. So like, it goes like, my father will go like, hul, 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 let's eat. But he read it with a feeling, but he was so fast, it was hard to follow him, but he was very strict. He made sure everybody paid attention. Now I had an uncle, one uncle was a great uncle, and he used to try to get us, the kids, drunk because we were hyper. And they wanted us to mellow out. So my uncle would say, the first glass of wine, did you finish it? No, you have to finish it, you know? So we would, by the fourth glass, we would be very mellow.
But you got the 4 questions out of the way.
Exactly,
First.
exactly. Now, in Israel, I have a split uh, alliance because my mother's maiden name is Manela, and they could be either from Portugal or from Italy that migrated to, ended up in Poland. But Manela, my mom had a very Sephardic kind of spirit, and I inherited that from her. But my dad was really Ashkenazi from Galicia. So everything was done, you know, in that style. My uncle was a chemist, engineer, and he would make liquor from anything, from peels of grapefruits. He would make slivovich, so they used to drink afterwards. But the Seder went really quick. There were special foods, of course, Ashkenazim, gefilte fish, that's the whole story. I had to go on Thursday to my father's work, where he was in charge of the sales of the live fish from a kibbutz, all in Yiddish. So I go with my bicycle. It's a very big hill. So going to my dad is easy. You go downhill. 2 cloth baskets on my bike, no gears. And I have to wait. A tanker full of fish with a, you know, motor running, pumping air is backing into the scales. All the store owners line up with little pickup trucks. The big Jew by the name of Benjamin, is standing there with a thing to catch the fish, with a net. The first guy in line backs up, and my father says to him in Yiddish, "Wie viel? How much?" He says, 50 kilo. Now, my father called the kibbutz earlier, you know, the day before, and told them, don't bring more than 2 tons. But then the driver comes, he goes to my father, "I'm sorry, I brought 2.5 tons. Can you get rid of 500 kilos for me?" So this guy says, 50. My father says to Benjamin, 100. I starts arguing with my dad in Yiddish. No, I just want 50. My dad says, poker face, 100. Boom. He puts the fish in the scale, all jumping. They open the scale and they fall into open boxes, and the guy drives away to his store. Now, I had to wait there. Oh, first comes a little Rebbe, like a Chabadnik. And he takes 3 fish before they sell anything and put them in a little bowl. And he takes some drops and he drops into it. And the fish go nuts. It's just going crazy, swimming around. And he looks in their gills. If there's worms in it, he can say this whole truck is done. So all the dead fish and stuff they gave to the zoo in Tel Aviv. But my job was to wait till the end because my dad would get some free fish, normally 4 or 5 of them. And I had to drive home really fast on my bike up a big hill, like Turtle Rock, and go to my mom, put them in the bathtub, and they would be swimming there until she told me to pick them up. And then she would look at them like, hit them with the back of the knife. And she would say, "Oi, I can't look."
No, she wouldn't look at him.
Was grinding them. So it was fresh, and I hated gefilte fish, but I helped with the delivery. Anyways, special Passover dish kind of arrived later after my sister got married, and I'll show it to you.
This is very exciting.
This is called chatzilim. This is eggplants.
Chatzilim.
Chatzilim. Look at this.
Beautiful. Hold that right there and smile. Great.
Anyway, so this is eggplants that you first have to drain from water, skinny ones, and then put garlic in the center and parsley on top. You can eat it hot or cold, and it, for me, it's for the whole Pesach.
And so easy to make.
Very, not easy. It's not easy. It's
Not easy.
It took me 4 hours.
Oh, well, it sounded
Anyways,
easy. I'm sorry.
yeah, my dad was a real Polak, and he would take the horseradish root and like latkes, you know, and he'd be crying. That was his ritual in Passover. He'd be crying the whole time, but he liked that fresh and sharp. And in Israel, you know, everybody's Jewish. So when Passover comes, it's a complete different feeling than here where you have non-Jewish neighbors and whatever. Everything becomes, chametz free. The kids have a vacation from school, so we're out on the streets. And a very important custom in Israel is you give the kids new clothes and shoes or sandals for Passover. So I would have a pair of sandals that you can imagine as an active kid I would wear out in a couple of months. So by the time Passover came and I got new sandals or shorts, that was a big thing.
Arie,
Yeah.
it's interesting. We had to spend a year in Israel for my first year of rabbinical school. And I think one of the greatest parts of that program is getting to experience the entire Jewish calendar, as you will. And nowadays, so you go to a Super Soul or you go to a supermarket or a market of any place, and they don't get rid of their chametz completely. They literally just seal it all up. And you walk in there, and there's no way of actually getting to that stuff, and they do it about a week prior. But what's fascinating now is you can go to almost any restaurant and you wouldn't even know you're observing Pesach anymore. I remember going to Waffle Bar and eating waffles during Pesach. But these were Pesach waffles. They made of potato, and you can have a bun. When did that start?
I think that's all part of the normal process, how people adjust to new materials and new ways to do things. And also in Israel, you have all these immigrants from different countries. And like Doug was talking about, their habits from Greece. And Jeff was talking about his background and the kind of things they eat. Each ethnic group brought their own ingredients because it was available. Like they didn't have horseradish in Tunisia and whatever, so they used lettuce. So every group like this brought their own ethnic flavor into it. And I think that the answer to your question is that it was an evolution because, and people got more comfortable. My mother, when I was a kid, cooked on kerosene. It's like a candle thing, It had a little wick and everything cooked slow. Chamin, you talked about huevos chaminados, Jeff, and huevos chaminados comes from chamin. Cham in Hebrew means hot. So it's a big ktera, they call it. Like in the old days, it was clay and then replaced by modern materials, cooked all night. Now in my neighborhood, because there was a bakery across the street, before the holiday, ladies would go to the bakery because they knew they finished the bakery and the oven stay hot all night. So they would ask him if they can put the dish in the bakery oven, and then in the morning they come pick it up. So that was, and then later on we had toasters and all these things and materials that we can make waffles.
Right.
It was modernizing, but still people are pretty strict in their own families, most of them in Pesach. And then in the family, during the Seder, we did all the rituals and everything. And then my brother-in-law and my uncle would start arguing about the 17 camels. I don't know if we have enough time to do this. And my time is probably running out. And the afikoman, really different in Israel. Israel, my father goes to wash his hands and then the kids hide the afikoman. Then he cannot continue the Seder before he finds it, right? So one Seder, my dad could not find it and we forgot where we put it.
Oh man, that's so fun.
That was fun. And then I'll sing you one quick song. Also before the Seder, you have somebody come to the neighborhood and shout, Magil Kelim, Magil Kelim, because in Israel you have to get ready. All your utensils, your knives, your forks, everything have to be kosherized.
Right.
This machine, he boils them and whatever, and you pay him money, and there's also a guy that sharpens knives. But this guy, Magil Kelim, before Pesach. Then we, of course, saying everything in Hebrew. That's the other difference. Everything is in Hebrew. And then when we get to Echad Mi Yodea, who knows one? I'll just sing you the 13, okay? Brian, do I have time?
Take it away.
Okay, so it goes like this. Just I'm out of practice. It goes like this. And the competition was to do it without taking a breath. I don't think I can do it anymore, but I'll give it a try. 13, מי יודע, 13, אני יודע, 13, מידיה, 12, שבטיה, 11, כוכביה, 10, דבריה, 9, יחד לידה, 8 ימי מילה, 7 ימי שבתא, 6 סדרי משנה, 5 חומשי תורה, 4 אמהות, 3 אבות, 2 לוחות הברית, 1 אלוהינו, 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 שבשמיים ובארץ.
I'm exhausted just trying that in one breath. That was great.
Anyway, so there's a lot more, but you know, Israel is a mix of everything. We also eat hazelnuts during Pesach. It was a fun thing to do. And every ethnic group has special dishes just for Pesach. The Moroccans eat very spicy fish that is called Dag Nesichat Anilus, the fish of the princess of the Nile. Really hot.
Well, I think we all look forward to trying that, and thank you for telling us and sharing with us and singing with us. Cantor, this was a treat. Thank you.
Thank you.
So very much. I'm curious for all of you, what is, if you have the ability to type in the chat, what are some of your favorite delicacies that your families have brought to your Seder and you've thus brought to yours all throughout history? Just share what you love, and because we'd love to see it right now. And without further ado, I am going to put the spotlight on our next presenter, Martine. Where is Martine? There you are. Hello, Martine.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Now, you have a little bit of an accent.
Okay, I am from France.
You're from France. So, and they do Seders in France.
They do, but my background is Sephardic, 100% Sephardic. My mom was born in Morocco, and my dad was born in Algeria. So I was born in France, and our Jewish holiday was a mismatch of Moroccan and Algerian Jewish tradition, specifically with the food. My husband being Ashkenazi, we happily merged custom from both our backgrounds to create our own special family experience. I think I hear an echo. Is that me or you guys good?
No, I will mute everyone else. Try now?
Okay, much better.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I have like 3 parts of what I'm going to talk about. There's a blessing, a Moroccan Jew, as well as some Tunisian, Algerian, Yemenite. I've been reciting for generations at the beginning of Passover Seder. Ever since I was a young child growing up in France, I have never forgotten this moment. We were all giddy with anticipation, and right before the beginning of the Agada, my father will pick up a Seder plate and wave it over the head of every person sitting at the table. Yes, it was a lot of fun. When my father did this, each of us wondered if we'll simply wave the plate above our head or knock us off, you know. This ritual created a lot of positive energy. And this ritual is known among Moroccan as the Bibilou. And this is a blessing. It's called Bibilou Yassa Misraim Lahama Aye Bene Ohim. With haste, we left Egypt. This is a poor bread, and now we are free. So for this evening, because I never knew what it meant really, I dig and I researched the meaning of this tradition, and this is what I found. So the great Kabbalist from Sfat, known as Arie, Rabbi Isaac Luria, explained in the Agada about a deeper meaning of the Seder plate arrangement, which suddenly tied together for me the logic and the reason behind the Moroccan Bibilou ritual. So next to each ritual item on the plate was written 10 Kabbalistic sephirot, or emanation. So for the free matzah, it corresponds to the one matzah, Keter, crown, Shampmach, wisdom, Bina, understanding. The Shangbon corresponds to Chesed, kindness. The egg corresponds to Gevurah, strength. The bitter herb corresponds to Tiferet, beauty. The Achosed corresponds to Netzach, victory. Karpas to Hod, splendor. Azeret to the horseradish correspond to Yesod, foundation. And the Seder plate itself represents Malchut, kinship. It suddenly dawned upon me that with this mystical arrangement, the Seder plate is no longer a platter carrying a selection of ritual items. And in other words, when the Seder plate is waved above our head during Bibi Lu, we are blessed with the spiritual strength of the divine. And for the rest of the evening, the presence of the Seder plate on the table represents the divine inner mist. Anyway, so I can, if you're not Moroccan, I mean, it gives you a newfound spiritual depth on that tradition. If you can share your screen with me, I have a little video clip from last Sunday, so people can see what it is.
Martine, I have just given you co-host abilities, so
there you go.
There you go.
Okay. So this is just like, that was last. Everybody, by the way, in as a Seder that we did, we all got vaccinated. So just wanted to say. Yes. It's American tradition. American tradition? Just feel free. Anyway, so that was just one of the clips. So we go around. Let me stop the sharing.
That's incredible, Martine. I love that.
So, where are you? Okay. No, okay, that's good. Yeah, but it was like my daughter, everybody was here. It was kind of nice. So I just wanted to show this. This is something I grew up with, and it was really a good experience. Also, there's another if we talk about the food, there's few things that we do different. We, like he said before, growing up, it was like the Roman lettuce. We did arrosette with date and fig and nuts. We did instead for the plate, the deep plate, we take a glass of water and a glass of wine and we pour. So it looked like the Red Sea blessing. So that was like something. And we use always lamb on lamb has to be on her food. And also we use vinegar. So also, and we rice and vinegar. There's another clip I want to share because every year we invited to some friends, and they're Persian. So if you have never heard of the Persian tradition, so we were invited on Sunday night, and we invited every year except last year, obviously, to share their tradition, their Passover, and it's kind of fun. So the Persian Pesach, before they start singing Dayenu, guests passed around large spring green onion. And if you're wondering why, all guests reenact the affliction of the Israelite slave by the Egyptian by hitting one another with spring onion. It's a bit of a free-for-all. Guests whack each other with a stem. And here you can see my family from last Sunday. Let me find it. Just give me a second. And it's kind of, it's really fun. Just a second.
Never thought onions would be fun.
Oh my God, it is. I have to say, it is. Excuse me for the poor filming because I was filming and I got hit. So let me share. Okay. And are you ready? Can you see it? Okay. Okay, so you got this gist.
You know, Martine, what I love about that, so I don't remember, somebody said it to me. I don't remember where, who, or what it was, but it was a Persian family, and
Yeah.
Persian families do this exact same
This is
thing.
it. No, you don't understand. This is not Moroccan. The second night of Passover, we're always invited to a friend, they're Persian. And so we've been doing that tradition with them the second night. It's not really my tradition, but it's becoming our tradition.
And they are vicious when
I
it comes
know.
to, I mean,
My
literally,
husband.
they said they bruise, they're hurt. I mean, it is really intense, and we don't do that in our house. But what an interesting custom.
Yeah. So this was the second part, and I have another thing I wanted to share to go if I have time. So that's a very typical tradition, Moroccan tradition. At the end of Passover, if you've never heard, it's called Mimuna. And what is Mimuna? So it's celebrated the day after of Passover end, and it has been celebrated in Morocco since the 16th century. And what happened at the Mimuna celebration? There are three themes for all food served during this holiday: fertility, prosperity, and success. Most of the food are sweet, including the most well-known dish for this holiday is mofleta or crepe. But in my family growing up, it was always sweet couscous, just a grain with cinnamon and sugar and raisin, and then served with milk. And you on the table, you will not find typical Moroccan cuisine. No dish like meat or salad. Instead, everything will have to be sweet. And on it, you will have symbolic item, like you will have a bowl of flour with eggs in it and fava bean to represent. My mom will put some gold bracelets and put it around the table. And everything has to be, it's all symbol of fertility, luck, blessing, joy. And one thing that was important that my mom told me is oftentimes Moroccan Jew will give all their flour, yeast, and grain that was remaining at Passover, before Passover, to their Muslim neighbor. In return, Muslim neighbor often the first visitor to Jews after Passover and bringing them sweet and other food items that were now permissible. So I just wanted to also share something, and I'll show you the here. There you go. Share. Can you see? Okay, so I just have to show a few pictures. This is the matzah that we eat in France. We have the thin matzah that they sell like here, but mostly those are like thicker. Then you also have some sweet and made with wine and orange. It's what's served. It's mostly from Algeria, but it's like what's popular. And so this is the first one here. This one is like just plain, and it's hard. And then you have this one, which is like sweet that you eat in the morning with a coffee. And then you have this one with wine and with orange flavor. And let me show you a picture of, this is what the mimuna look like at the end of Passover, where you have different items. You have the eggs and you have milk, you have everything. And you see another one here. And that's it for me.
I love it. Thank you. That is fascinating. Really fascinating. Things I didn't know. Did all of you know this? Because I definitely didn't. So thank you, Martine, for sharing those customs with us. And I especially appreciate the blessing. I may want to adopt that.
What?
I may want to adopt the blessing. I especially
Well,
really,
yeah, I can send
really
it to you.
appreciated that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We are winding down, my friends, and we hope you've enjoyed. We have one more short presenter who's going to talk to us about some allergy-friendly Pesach items, and that is none other than our Director of Youth Education, Heather Rosenthal. So, Heather, I am adding the spotlight onto you. There is Heather. How
Oh
are
my goodness.
you?
All right, Chag Sameach, everyone. It is good to celebrate all these holidays with you. Honey, Geoffrey, can you please share your screen to my slide, please? While he is doing that, I wanted to just re-emphasize what Rabbi Zive just said and just all the amazing traditions we are learning about. I am fortunate enough to get to experience a Sephardic Seder, and I love having my children and hopefully one day my grandchildren yes, I know I'm too young to think about grandchildren, but I'm so excited for grandchildren. Very long time down the road, but yes, I think that there is such a beauty in sharing these traditions with our families. So something that I did for the very first time this year is that I created an allergy-friendly Seder. Our best friends have a member of their household that has severe food allergies. And you can understand that the top 8 allergens are really hard to deal with for Passover. And so, nuts, whether it's tree nuts or peanuts, eggs, gluten, sesame, especially in like an Israeli meal. There is so many difficulties in creating a Passover Seder meal. And so right now what I'm going to do is in the chat, I'm going to share with everyone. I was kind of tired of actually not writing down all my recipes. So this year I wrote down my allergy-friendly meal items. And I was really thoughtful in what this child could eat. So instead of having he happens to be allergic to eggs. So instead of actually having an egg on the Seder plate, I went to my neighbor's house and grabbed an Easter egg so that we had an egg-shaped something on the Seder plate. All of our recipes were nut-free. I made my own matzah for everyone at the table, which was a labor of love, but I used garbanzo bean flour and water and some garlic and onion powder. But it was just so amazing to try to be all encompassing for people that were invited over to our home. So a lot of the recipes were Moroccan. We had Moroccan chicken. We had lots of dates and figs and prunes. So our haroset was mostly fruit-based, and of course there were no nuts. So hopefully you can enjoy that if you have someone in your family that you are thinking about how to be creative with meals. There's also just so many resources online. But maybe you have young ones at your Seder table and you're thinking, how can I make this age appropriate for them while also including some of our traditions, whether it's Abbas Davanos or it's Dayenu or whatever songs that you normally have. I want to just say let your imagination go wild. We had under our plates, every one of us had a different plague mask. Here in the picture, you can see they were holding it up. Ours are actually sunglasses. And it was a really fun experience to have everyone, they didn't know it was under their plate, pull it out as we were doing the 10 plagues. And the adults had just as much fun as the kids. And some of us actually kept them glasses on throughout the rest of the Seder because it was just so funny to, be boils for the evening. And I also think like Cantor and Rabbi have talked about, just bring in the music, have fun. Just because I can't sing doesn't mean I can't bring in music. There's so many recordings, there's so many song lists that you can actually go from. And here are just a few pictures of the creativity that some people have had for children, maybe not even children. Maybe you're like, I do not want to do a really long Seder. There is an actual book that is the 30-minute Seder. And Hogwarts, there is a Haggadah that's based upon Hogwarts. So I just wanted to point out that these aren't necessarily just for kids. They're for all of us in finding our interests and making it a really fun, memorable experience. I know that if I went to Martine's friend's house and was whacked with green onion, that would sure be a memorable experience for me. And it would be something that I would want to bring back to my tradition. So I do think that Passover, while we all have our own traditions, it's also nice to add in maybe one new thing every year that we can try out. So those are some just of my quick thoughts.
Thank you, Heather. That is really cool. Remember, there's no such thing as I can't sing. It's just that I won't sing.
Rabbi, you've heard me during tefillah with those
Stop sharing your screen, Heather. Yeah, there you go. I've heard you sing, but I love it. Okay. I love the enthusiasm. And speaking of singing, we're going to close our evening tonight with a song from Israel. It's an Israeli kids song. And I realize Cantor Shikler probably should have been the one singing this, but I'm going to sing it anyway, and he can sing along. It's, when I lived in Israel, there were so many songs that I think of kids songs, and it's very Americanized, the songs that I actually think of. But in actuality, there is a litany of kids songs in Israel. And this is one that's called Simcha Rabbah. Simcha Rabbah, a really great simcha, that spring is arriving and here comes Pesach. Cantor, do you know this one? It goes like this. It's very easy. Simcha Rabbah, Simcha Rabbah, Aviv higia Pesach ba. Simcha Rabbah, Simcha Rabbah, Aviv higia Pesach ba. That's how it goes. Really easy. Simcha Rabbah, Simcha Rabbah, Aviv higia Pesach ba. Simcha Rabbah, Simcha Rabbah, Aviv higia Pesach ba. Taferu, taferu li begerim kisim mileu kasi be'ezgozim. Simcha Rabbah, Simcha Rabbah, Aviv higia Pesach ba. Simcha Rabbah, Simcha Rabbah, Aviv higia Pesach ba. So that is just a little taste. We have gone around the world. We have seen and heard and learned about so many wonderful traditions. We hope you had a wonderful time with us tonight. Huge thanks to Geoffrey Rosenthal. Geoffrey, thank you so much for all the work you put in planning this. You can take yourself off mute. And...
You're welcome, everyone. I'm glad you enjoy it. And the expression goes next year in Jerusalem, but I'd settle for maybe next year at our synagogue with, experiencing some of these in person. It's learned a lot tonight, and there's a lot of fun stuff that happens at different seders. So it's great to learn.
Absolutely. And thank you to Heather, to Doug, to Cantor Shikler, to Martine. You have all presented really beautifully, and we loved hearing about all of your customs in your in the chat that you use in your homes. And we hope that the rest of your Pesach is full of joy, not full of chametz, but full of joy. And that's what we're looking for, and full of freedom and full of songs still, and lots of great things ahead. And yes, we say Bashana Haba Avi Yerushalayim next year in Jerusalem, and we can't wait. Or as Geoffrey said, at Temple. Thank you to the Brotherhood also for bringing us this wonderful event. So until next time, everybody. We also have made this available in recording, and it'll be up on YouTube very, very soon. So have a wonderful night, everybody. Take care.
Hag Sameach.
Hag Sameach.